Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, lawmakers in Washington continue working to find a way to avert a government shutdown. And the auto workers' strike is growing. We will have more about why thousands of more union members are joining the picket lines.
Plus, we are trending warmer to kick off October. Those details coming up as Mountain News at 5:30 starts now.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Olivia Calfee. Steve has the night off. With less than 2 days to go until the government shuts down, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says he will introduce a short-term spending bill known as a continuing resolution to keep the government open while Congress works on long-term spending plans. But he does not appear to have the votes, meaning millions of Americans will soon feel the impact of a government shutdown. CBS's Nicole Skanga has more details from Capitol Hill.
Alice Silver can smile while she watches her kids play, but that grin fades when she thinks about what's looming.
Times are hard as it is, and a paycheck being missed is a big problem.
Silver's husband is one of more than 1 million members of the military who's facing the prospect of working without pay and potentially choosing between feeding their families or paying their bills. She had a message for members of Congress who will still be receiving paychecks during the shutdown.
Make a decision, get their stuff together and think about us real people who have real problems and real bills to pay.
The House is moving forward on a short-term bill to keep the government open, but far-right Republican members say they'll vote against the bill.
My stance isn't trying to shut the government down, it's trying to shut off the unlimited spending of the federal government's credit cards.
Those same GOP hardliners are threatening to vote out Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, even as he's moved more and more to the right over time to accommodate them, but to no avail.
Members say they only want to vote for individual bills, but they hold me up all summer and won't let me bring individual bills up. Then they say they won't vote for a stopgap measure that keeps government open. So I don't know, where do you go in that scenario? Have you ever seen that?
Hundreds of thousands of federal workers will be furloughed during a shutdown, and millions more, like TSA screeners, will have to work without pay.
People who don't get paid to come into work sometimes don't come into work, even if they're asked to. So getting through an airport could be hard, getting a passport could be hard.
The shutdown takes effect at 12:01 a.m. on Sunday morning. Nicole Skanga, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The Senate has passed with bipartisan support its own version of a continuing resolution that would keep the government open for 45 days. However, Speaker McCarthy says House Republicans will not consider the bill. Millions of Americans are likely to feel the impact of a government shutdown. That includes those who have served our country. Veterans Club Incorporated founder and CEO Jeremy Harrell says a government shutdown will impact millions of military service members and those who work with the military. He says that will likely include the loss of SNAP benefits and other food assistance programs.
But right now, today, over 25% of military families are experiencing food insecurity. And this is without a shutdown. So you can imagine how much more impactful that would be.
Veterans who receive care and benefits through VA healthcare may feel less of an impact. State police continue to investigate a deadly plane crash that happened late Wednesday night in Ohio County in western Kentucky. A search party discovered the bodies of the 2 men who were killed in the plane crash. 22-year-old flight instructor Timothy McKellar and 18-year-old student pilot Connor Kiesenberry died in the crash around 11 o'clock Wednesday night. The two were en route to Owensboro from Bowling Green.
We are tracking some beautiful weather across the mountains into your Friday evening. Here's a live look right now from Moorhead to Buffalo Mountain to Pikeville. Also the London Corbin Airport. Check out that awesome sky. We are looking at plenty of sunshine as well right now across the mountains, and those temperatures are warmer today. Right now in the upper 70s and lower 80s, up to 79 for Jackson, 81 for Manchester. Also Somerset up to 84 in Monticello and down to 70 over in Wise at this hour. So most of us in the middle to upper 70s as that mild weather will continue into this weekend as well. Up on the radar, most of us are dry, maybe a few spotty sprinkles in the Big Sandy Valley, close to Martin and Floyd County. Also one not too far away from Paintsville and Johnson County. For most of us, we are very quiet and dry as we go into this evening. And check this out, for the next 5 days, dry as a bone as high pressure does sit over the mountains. Also warmer weather on the way for this weekend and next week. All those details coming up in just a few minutes. Olivia?
Cameron, thank you. Senator Diane Feinstein has died. The California Democrat was the longest serving female senator in U.S. history. She was also the oldest current member at the time of her death. Feinstein, a former mayor of San Francisco, was first elected to the U.S. Senate in 1992. Some of her consequential work include the 1994 federal assault weapons ban and the 2014 CIA torture report. She was 90 years old. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell offered his thoughts on Diane Feinstein, saying, quote, "Those of us fortunate to call Senator Feinstein our colleague can say we served alongside the longest serving female senator in American history. Diane was a trailblazer, and her beloved home state of California and our entire nation are better for her dogged advocacy and diligent service." The United Auto Workers is adding thousands more auto workers to the picket lines as it continues to negotiate a new contract with the big three automakers. CBS's Michael George has the latest from New York.
We want a pension. We want a pension. Auto workers at Ford's Chicago assembly plant walked out Friday, and so did UAW members at a GM plant in Lansing, Michigan. With another 7,000 members now on the picket lines, there are 25,000 workers on strike in 21 states.
Our courageous members at these two plants are the next wave of reinforcements in our fight for record contracts.
UAW President Shawn Fain did announce some progress in talks with Stellantis, the parent company of Chrysler and Jeep.
We are excited about this momentum at Stellantis and hope it continues.
The UAW is currently seeking up to a 40% raise over 4 years, as well as job and cost of living protections. The union rejected offers from automakers centered around a 20% raise.
Some of these people, these second-tier workers, they start at $16, $17 an hour. You can make that at McDonald's.
For its part, Ford says it has offered a historic contract that would change the lives of over 57,000 workers.
We still have time to reach an agreement and avert a real disaster, but not much more time given the fragility of the supply base.
The union is vowing to keep expanding the 2-week-old strike if a deal is not reached. Michael George, CBS News.
Talks are still in progress, but GM says it hasn't received a counteroffer from union leaders to an economic proposal made on September 21st. A major development in the 2020 Georgia election interference case. One of former President Donald Trump's co-defendants has agreed to plead guilty to 5 charges. When he testified before the grand jury, Bell bondsman Scott Hall admitted he unlawfully assessed voter data and voting machines in an election office in Coffee County. The action took place a day after the January 6th attack on Capitol Hill. A fugitive is dead and 2 U.S. Marshals are hurt following a shootout in South Carolina. The U.S. Marshal Service says they were attempting to arrest George Curtis on several child sexual abuse charges today. Officials say during the arrest, Curtis opened fire, hitting 2 U.S. Marshal deputies. Both deputies are in stable condition with non-life-threatening injuries. Curtis was pronounced dead at the scene, officials say, from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. A major break in the murder investigation of rapper Tupac Shakur. Law enforcement sources say police have arrested a suspect in the unsolved murder. The source says Dwayne Keith Davis, also known as Keith D, is now in custody and facing charges in the 1996 murder. Authorities arrested Davis in Las Vegas on Friday. Police searched Davis' home last July as part of its ongoing investigation into the shooting. Shakur was killed in a drive-by shooting in Las Vegas. Analysis from the nonprofit Everytown for Gun Safety shows gun suicide levels are vastly different among the 50 U.S. states, depending on their gun laws. The report found that states with the weakest gun safety laws like Mississippi and Arkansas saw the rate of gun suicides jump 39% within the past 2 decades. In contrast, states with the strongest safety laws saw rates decrease slightly through that same period. The Department of Labor is now investigating Purdue Farms and Tyson Foods regarding possible child labor law violations. The investigation of the chicken processing plants follows a New York Times report from earlier this month. The report mentioned an underage migrant worker was injured while working for a sanitation company hired by Purdue in Virginia. Purdue says it plans to cooperate with any government inquiry on the matter, while Tyson has yet to comment. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, we find out if a digital highlighter, which is designed to transfer printed text straight to your computer or mobile device, works.
Plus, some awesome weather is on the way for high school and college football. Your full forecast after this break.